Hey everyone, this is Danielle, also known as Gently Smiling Jaws, and welcome to my Flosstube. I wanted to say hello to the new subscribers that have joined since my whip parade was posted, so thank you for being here. Glad to have you, and I hope you enjoy. So I've got my notes here in hopes that I don't forget anything for this Flosstube. This one will probably be shorter. The last couple weeks, it's better today. You're still going to hear the fan going, but we'd had some very warm weather for Seattle, where many of us, myself included, do not have air conditioning, and there was quite a few days where I didn't want to do a darn thing, just because the heat was so much. I don't do well in in the heat, and so my stitching suffered quite a bit, as you will see. I suppose I should do a little bit of an intro for the folks that are newer here. My name is Danielle. I live in the Seattle area, and I do right now cross stitch is kind of the main hobby that I've been working on, but I do kind of dabble in a number of things. I do some crochet, a little bit of knitting. In the past, I've done a little bit of tapestry weaving. I've done some spinning yarn, which I'm hoping to get back into doing a little bit. I haven't done it just yet, but and then just, kind of playing around with, drawing and painting, which I don't think I'm really any good at, but sometimes it's just fun to sit and doodle. So yeah, I've tried a lot of things, but right now kind of cross stitch is the main thing that I am focused on. I also like tea, and often I will be drinking tea or talking a little bit about tea in my videos. And I keep snakes. I've got 3 snakes right now: a ball python, a corn snake, and a Japanese rat snake. And I'll probably put in some pictures or video or something, so if that's not your cup of tea, then feel free to skip ahead a little bit. And also, being on the subject of snakes, one thing I had just found out about this, and I haven't had a chance to really look at it, but I'm gonna have to check it out, is that there is, let me check my notes here, there is a YouTube channel called Project Rattlecam, and it's associated with, I think, one of the universities in California, and they have cams set up to live stream at a couple different rattlesnake rookeries. And I've only briefly looked at one of the cameras is in Colorado, and I'm blanking on what state the other one is in, but it's just a live feed, so you can see these areas where the rattlesnakes hang out, where they overwinter, where the females go to give birth to their babies. And I think the people who run it during certain times of the day, they're there, so if you have questions, they'll answer questions from people. The exact location of where the cameras and the rookeries are, they keep that secret, because obviously they don't, whether it's people who like rattlesnakes who want to go catch them, or people who don't like rattlesnakes who want to go kill them, they don't want anyone going in there and messing with the snakes. So I'll put a link to the stuff down in the description there. As far as tea, the tea that I have today, I brought 2 things that need to show kind of both the ones I have. These were given to me as gifts by a friend. These are from Friday Afternoon Tea. It's a local place here in Seattle. They have a physical location, which I have not been to, but they also sell tea online, and they're usually at the Northwest Tea Festival every year. But they do they do lots of different types of tea. They'll do kind of special blends. A lot of them are like kind of fandom based stuff. And the owner of the shop, Friday, I think, actually I'm not sure whether it's she or they pronouns, but Friday, I believe, has I'm gonna mispronounce this, synesthesia, and uses that in coming up with the various tea blends. But these particular ones that I was given were two from the Turtle Power collection, which I don't know whether this one is available right now. I know they kind of switch things out in the shop, but this was obviously connected to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The one I'm drinking right now is an herbal one called Away with Machines, so it's the Donatello one. That's my favorite turtle. And the ingredients in this one are dragon fruit, ginkgo biloba, tulsi, rose petals, and chamomile. So that's what I'm drinking right now, and it's pretty good. The other one from this collection, that I was given, which I haven't tried yet, is called Leader in Blue, which is obviously Leonardo. And the ingredients on this one are green tea, apple, ginger, matcha green tea, and blue pea flower. So it's got the blue pea flower in there. That means it'll give that blue color, where if you add anything acidic into it, it'll turn that purple. So I'll just kind of show that. I'll bring the other one up so you can kind of see that. And for the new folks here, I like all kinds of tea. I drink all kinds of tea. Often at home, I'm usually doing a loose leaf of some sort, but if I'm not feeling up to doing that, I will just grab some bag tea as well. And usually at work now, I just have bag tea for convenience. In my previous job, where I had the kind of set up to do, it was just that setup was a little more conducive to being able to have a whole little kind of loose leaf brewing thing at my desk. But current job, where I may be interacting with clients more and have the papers and stuff around, that's not going to happen. So the loose leaf is an at-home thing. And my mug today I have is my chameleon mug, because obviously I like all kinds of animals, including the reptiles, which is why I have the snakes. And I've never had chameleons myself, but I think they're pretty interesting. I don't know a lot about them other than that. At my current level of chameleon knowledge, I would be in no way equipped to care for a chameleon. With any sort of reptile, you have to do a lot of research to know you're taking care of them the proper way. All right, what else do I have on my list here? Oh, back on July 10th was my 2-year stitchiversary, so I've now been doing a cross stitch for 2 years. And then I think my 1 year of Flosstube will be sometime next month. I forget the exact date that my first video went up. I'd have to look back and check. So let me get to the stitching here. And as I mentioned, because of the weather, I did very little stitching. And actually, the first thing I'll show, as opposed to the one thing that I actually stitched on, is the Femurs and Fungi cell, which I did show in the whip parade. But I don't know that I stitched on this after. Let me check my notes, because now I'm questioning whether I did any stitching on it after I filmed my whip parade. Oh, I actually did. I stitched on 2 things. not a lot on this other one, but I did get some done. So the Femurs and Fungi, I did stitch on this after filming the whip parade. I got the skull up on the top, and then I started working on, there it is, those items on the shelf down there, but did not get that finished yet. So actually this sal was a mystery sal, which is now, you know, complete, so you can buy the full completed pattern. I'll stick that in here somewhere so you can see the whole thing. And this is Fine Frog Stitching is the one who did the pattern and had the sal, and there's another mystery sal coming up next month. I've already purchased the pattern for that, although the first part of it is not the first part of the pattern hasn't been released yet, so can't start stitching on it yet. But that is the, I think it's plants and petrichor sal, so it's going to have plants and a rainy, you know, kind of feeling to it. So I'm curious to see how that goes, and hopefully that's something I can keep up with. You will see from the two things I stitched on, my modern folk embroidery sal is not one of those, so that sort of fell by the wayside. I've been trying to stitch on it, you know, between each video. I did not get to it before doing my whip parade, and I did not get to it before this video, so that has sat for a while, and I need to get back to it. But with how I was feeling in the weather, I had momentum to stitch on both this as well as the next piece that I started, and I just said, you know what, if this is what I'm motivated to stitch on, I'm just gonna let myself do it. That will be my stitching, and I will stitch it and be happy about it. So that is what I have done. So this, let me see, I am now at 51.43% on this, so obviously still have all the fill-in to do, but and I don't know whether I can finish this before the you know, starting the other sal starts, but we'll see. Maybe it'll happen. I've been meaning to go back to this. Well, this or many of the other things that I mentioned in my video were things I should focus on to try and get a finish, but that has not happened yet. But every time I thought about going back to this, I thought, I just want to stitch on the other piece right now, so that's what I let myself do. But still, there's been some progress, and I'm looking forward to getting this done. The other reason I brought this one in is because it's in an 11 by 11 Q-snap, and I have something to talk about when I show the other piece. So next piece is in a way too big of a Q-snap for it. This is in a 17 by 17 Q-snap. This is the Artsy Housewife Within a Dream pattern, which I will insert a photo of here. It is a pattern that was I think it was a tier 4, I forget all the tiers. It was a Patreon pattern that you had to have a certain you know, subscription level for last month, and now it is not, you know, it's not available. Well, I should say, just before filming this, I went and checked. If you are a Patreon member, you will have access to her, you know, Patreon shop, where you can purchase some of the past patterns that she's released on Patreon. So it looks like if you know, want to purchase this now, you have to be a Patreon member and then go and purchase it from her Patreon member shop, and that's how, you know, you can get this pattern. I don't know when it's, you know, slated for a wider release. I'm not sure what her schedule is for things like that, but I saw this and saw it had an interesting border and the raven and then the skull and all that, and I saw that and I liked it. And then what was really kind of the turning point for me was I had seen the start of the pattern being stitched with the Roxy Floss conversion. So this is using the Roxy Floss conversion, and this fabric is also is it the Panettone 46 count. And so I put my order in with Evertote, and after it arrived, I got working on it. And in particular, with the Roxy Floss was the color, this kind of variegated green. Here, I'll bring this closer. That's called, let me see if I can, see, in this Q-snap, it's not going to be the best with the other things I have sitting on this table in front of me. But that variegated green that's called Crooked, I really liked how that looked, and so that's what drew me into doing it, these colors. So obviously 17 by 17 Q-snap, quite a bit bigger than, or wider at least, than it should be. And I forget what the length is on this pattern, if it's on 46 count, but obviously it's quite narrow. I want to go and switch this so it's in an 11 by 17 Q-snap, so I'm going to swap out and make it not as wide, but I haven't done that yet, partly because I felt like I had gotten it kind of so nicely into the Q-snap here, and I didn't feel like like swapping it out at first. And then the other thing that I ran into is that since I got my Lowry stand last year, I pretty much use that all the time when I'm stitching, at home. And so I have the Q-snap in there, and generally I'm stitching two-handed, and I have my right hand with the needle on the front of the fabric, or rather I have my left hand doing the needle on the front, and my right hand, since I'm right-handed and I'm more skilled with my right hand, doing the needle from behind where I can't see, and I've gotten better at doing that. This Q-snap, because it's so wide, when I have it in the frame and I have this over on this side of the fabric that's sitting there and I can't reach around and on with my right hand on the back, so my left hand I was using on the back of the fabric. So this was some slow stitching for me. I've sped up a little bit, but again, part of the reason I didn't switch out right away is I thought, oh, this kind of forces me to get better at using my left hand with this. So I thought, well, let's lean into it and go with it, and that's what I did. So I'm still not nearly as skilled, trying to stick the needle through from behind the fabric with my left hand, but I have gotten better. So the amount of stitching that I have done on this, let me set this down and take a peek at my notes here. I am at, I've put in 1,807 stitches, and that's out of 19,704 stitches, so I am at 9.17%, not quite at 10% yet, but I am in there. I know I'm going to want to stitch on other things, but I'm sort of at a point where I'm still enjoying it, and I figure that while I'm enjoying it, I should just plow ahead and make as much progress as I can, and then when I'm sick of working on it, then I switch to something else. And again, that throws me off for other things that I had planned, but oh well, I guess I'm throwing my plans out the window because this is what I want to do now. So on this top border, I have pretty much everything stitched. I'm just finishing the line of this brown that goes across here, and then there's this center area I need to fill in. I'm just waiting because that same color gets used on these parts of the tree or whatever here. So I wanted to get this across and use up this piece of floss, and then switch to this color, and then start doing that, and then working my way down. So I'm not quite sure when I'm going to run out of steam. I'm sure it will be fairly soon, and then I'll want to switch. But yeah, there's a lot of stitches in that small of an area. what I had decided to do on this also when I was ordering was I went with the 46 count fabric, because that's kind of like the highest count that I can stitch on with my eyes and lighting and magnifying. That's kind of my limit, and I sort of like how things look when they're smaller, and so I decided I would go with that. But then I ordered the floss itself enough for doing 2/2, even though I'm stitching 1/2, because I figured that would give me plenty of floss, and then if I liked it, I would have some extra on hand to use for other things. And there's one section on this when I was first doing the kind of black part of the border. I think I had to frog, I don't know, maybe around 200 stitches or so. I was stitching at night, probably like later than I should have, and my attention was not quite as focused, and I was trying to plow ahead, and when I was working on it the next day and looking at things and how they lined up, I realized I had miscounted, and so I had to undo a chunk, but all is well now. So yeah, that has been my main stitching focus since my whip parade 2 weeks ago. What I also want to talk about, since I didn't have a lot of stitching, I was thinking about something that I had first seen years ago, and long before I was ever cross stitching, and I went and was looking up this person to find out more about their project and where things were at now. I got sort of some answers, but not fully. And I'm going to grab my tablet here because there is an article, which hopefully I will have pulled up on here, that I would like to read. It's not very long. This is a article from back in the 28th of August in 2014. So this is 10 years ago. And I had come across this gal on Tumblr who is Silvie Kilgallon, and I think at the time she was a student. From what I can see now is she currently has a PhD. Looks like she is both a classicist and an artist. And so even though I didn't really know about anything about cross stitching or embroidery, when I came across her particular work that I'm going to talk about, I found out about her because I was studying classics in college. Now it's been long enough, and I haven't used my language skills, so that my ability to read Latin or ancient Greek is really not there anymore. But this article, which is from the University of Bristol, is about her project called Stitching the Iliad, and this isn't very long, so I'm just going to go ahead and read it. Obviously it is their publication, but the article is from 10 years ago, so I'm not so concerned. I'll link to it if you want to go look at it on their site. So this says, an ambitious project to create a visual translation in embroidery of all 24 books of Homer's celebrated poem, the Iliad, is being undertaken by University of Bristol PhD student Silvie Kilgallon. In this stitched Iliad, each letter in the text is represented by an individual stitch with different letters denoted by different shades of red in the first book. With each new book, one letter color will be substituted for a shade of blue instead, with the final book being entirely blue. The initial red scheme was chosen for several reasons. The Iliad is a book of war, anger, and bloodshed, and those are all concepts that a contemporary audience associates with a red color scheme. Interestingly, Homeric Greek did not have many names for colors, hence the famous description of the wine-dark sea that appears several times throughout Homer's writing. And that's one thing I did look back up, because I'm like, at one point I knew the words for wine-dark sea, and I think it's oinops pontos. Look that up to refresh my memory. Research has shown that by and large all cultures follow a very similar order in developing names for colors. Black, white, and red come first, and blue is always one of the last colors to be named. Thus the project begins in red, a primal color, and transitions through to blue, a color indicative of a more technologically developed society. The color change throughout the translations can therefore be seen as a representative of the transmission of the text from the mythic Homer to the modern readers or viewers of the text. Silvie said, I started the project in response to a curator showing me a newly built empty gallery space and asking me what I would put in it. My mind immediately sprang to the Iliad. I'd been researching translation, transmission, and reception of text issues, so my immediate question to myself was, can I produce a translation of the text that allows an audience of non-classicists to appreciate it without understanding the text itself? The color translation was my solution. The project aims to have both a performative and informative aspect. Silvie works on the piece in public places and documents her progress on her blog in order to prompt conversation about the Iliad and its reception with her audience. And I think the blog that they're referring to is, she has a Tumblr account. It's stitchediliad.tumblr.com that I checked, and it had been quite some time since she had updated it, and I am not quite sure where the project is, because what is it? I forget how many books, the 24 books of the Iliad, and I think she's working on book 3 or 4, or at least that's what is shown online. So obviously this is still I don't know whether she sort of set it aside or still just kind of slowly making progress, because obviously that's a big thing. I'll sort of insert some stuff in it and give links to the blog so you can take a look and check things out for yourself. I grabbed, because I had it sitting around, this is a translation of the Iliad that I had in college. It still has all my little notes in it from when I was having to write paper on it. I do have a Greek copy that's packed away in a box somewhere in my storage area, but I can't really read that now anyway, so yeah, so that's why I was first interested in her project. And so that sort of be thinking, that's a really big project, as opposed to doing something like a pattern, whether you are designing a pattern yourself, or stitching patterns that somebody else has created, or doing a series of patterns, or making changes to them and combining them in different ways, like how I'm wanting to kind of slowly working to put Lindy Stitch's airmail series into like a book format, or things like Michelle Bendy Stitchy is working on a spot sampler, where instead of stitching samplers from various retreats that she's gone to, she's picking elements from those and stitching them all together on one sampler. Or even just if you have a project you're working on and you decide you're not going to stitch the whole thing, and you make changes to it, that obviously those are all ways of being creative and adapting things. But like a really big massive project like this, if you were going to do a big massive project, what would you want to do? And I don't have any idea of what I would do, or it's like, what if I was going to plan something huge, what would I want it to be? What would be my goals of doing it? And I don't know, that's something to think about. But it just seems like it's a very ambitious project, and one that still seems to be ongoing. Like I said, I'll put the links that I have in the description. I think she also has a Twitter account. I know it's X now, but I don't use Twitter, and I'm always going to call it Twitter. But because I don't have an account on there, I can't easily look at other people's accounts. So I know she has an account, but I don't know whether she has posted any updates there or not. And so yeah, but it's interesting to see. Obviously the text, when it starts out red, it's in red, but it's in various shades of red, and so you've just got, it's just kind of a big list of lines of varying lengths that reflect, the text that she's doing. I think she's, chooses a particular shade for each letter, and then as going, from one book to the next, then one of those letters, that shade of red will get swapped out for a shade of blue. And so yeah, it's been sort of interesting to check back up on it, and now looking at something that when I first saw it I wasn't stitching anything, and now looking back on something, and now that I have stitched things, and I'm like, wow, that's sort of interesting to see. And obviously a huge project, and boy, with a huge project like that, I'm sure it would take me a long time as well, because I can see sort of hitting a wall, or I didn't want to work on it anymore, because the one that's a lot of stitching, and it's obviously you're not creating like an image of whether it's a geometric pattern or an animal or a plant or just a pattern. It's just colors based on text, and I could see where that could get tedious, particularly because since it's a different color for each letter, that's really a lot of confetti because you're not just stitching a block, you're having to switch your color pretty much constantly, although I suppose you could jump around between lines and try and fill in particular letters. But yeah, that was just something I wanted to mention because I wasn't sure how many people had ever come across that in their kind of stitching journey themselves. What else? Do I have any other notes here? I think the only other thing that I don't have here, but I know I need to kind of get back to mention, is eSIMs. I know right now I still have my 2 eSIMs, which have not been activated. I am waiting for them to be activated. I have resent them in, re-emailed them in once, and obviously there are many reasons why they may not be activated, and I know that they expire later this month, and I do mine through Nomad, so if they do expire, I will go and ask them for a refund. I think they just refund you in points, so you can buy more eSIMs, and then I will mail the information back to the donation email. I know that the folks doing the eSIMs, why am I blanking on her name? I'll always have the links in the description, like I always do. And the folks that do the eSIMs do Gaza. I know they've been posting recently that they are running very low on eSIMs, and they are basically, they need people to donate eSIMs in order to keep going, and really eSIMs is what is giving people in Gaza any sort of connectivity at all to the internet. And they've mentioned that they've been running quite low. If it reaches the point where more eSIMs aren't coming in, then they will kind of shut down their work, because if they don't have eSIMs, they can't move forward. And there are, and I think part of the reason that people may not be donating as much is because I can understand how people can get frustrated, because if they donate eSIMs and they don't see them activated, like these particular ones that I've been waiting on, that, you know, they think, oh, I've wasted my money, this isn't helping anybody. But if you go and look at, you know, the Instagram, just they have information on there that explains why people may not be, you know, why they may not get activated, like how it may be, you know, a journalist that they've given multiple eSIMs to, and, you know, so that they have backups, or, you know, just being able to, you know, do the to activate the eSIM. There can be trouble doing that. The folks may have, the folks that are getting these may have kind of tech issues, or have some sort of, you know, flub where it doesn't activate properly, or, you know, they could be lose their phone, they could be injured or killed, and then, you know, there's just so many reasons why the eSIM may not be activated. And so, you know, they ask people to be patient, wait a certain amount of time. If it still isn't activated, you can go and resend the information to their email, and you know, go from there. And there's various eSIMs that they accept. The only one that I have used myself and have any experience with is Nomad, but there are other options out there as well. And again, I'll put the link down in the description. I think the only other things, again, things that I didn't have on my list, but as far as what I'm planning on stitching on, obviously I'm just going to keep going with what is kind of making me happy, and I have motivation to get to, but ideally I would like to do more on the Femurs and Fungi SAL to try and get that more complete before the next one starts. Speaking of SALs, the Satsuma Street Monster House SAL, I have my supplies for that, and the first part has been released. I just haven't started in on that one for the various reasons that I haven't been stitching as much these past few weeks. So that's also one of my plans as well. Had to get some tea as I had a coughing fit. See, I was watching some Flosstubes recently. There are many Flosstubes out there, and if you are taking time to watch mine, then thank you for being here. One of the Flosstubes that I do watch regularly is the Sunshine Stitchers, and a few weeks ago on their video, Sheila was showing what she had in her stitchy bag, and kind of all the stuff she had in there that she kept on hand and used for stitching, and, you know, taking with her when she was stitching. And I realized that I have lots of supplies around, but they're kind of strewn in various places, and it would probably be better for me if I created a stitchy bag on my of my own, to sort of gather my supplies and have them together in one place and have all the various things. So I've taken some inspiration from her, and I'm in the process of putting my stitchy bag together. So maybe down the road I will have something to show of my own, but not there quite yet. But that's for a future video. So I think that is where I will leave it for today. So once again, thank you to those of you watching, both new folks as well as returning folks, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.